everybody. I'm Kyle Filson of Expanded Perspectives, and I'd like to welcome you to the first ever episode of our entirely new show. Over the last 3 years, we've asked people to send in their stories and eyewitness accounts, and we've acquired so many, that we decided to start a separate show dedicated to the retelling of those stories, and we're going to call it Unusual Encounters. Now, it's not just me here in studio. With me, as always, is the troublemaker himself, Mr. Cam Hale. Cam, why don't you tell everybody hello and tell them what we're going to be talking about on today's show.
Well, howdy, folks, and thanks, like Kyle said, for joining us here. We're having a few beers. We're sitting in here in studio, going to try to break this in. Like I said, this is our first run at it, so be kind, but here we go. Like we said, we've started this a while back. We didn't expect it to take off like it did. We really didn't expect it to pick up as far as interaction with the listeners like that. We would hope people would listen, but y'all have poured out to us, and we've got a ton of emails and coming in. And like I said, we've got great stories. We've covered them on several last episodes, but now we're going to wind into a show just dedicated to y'all. So today we're going to get into something that I covered a few elite shows back, and it was the El Sabon, and it was the Whistler. And the Whistler is Colombian and Venezuelan folklore or myth, or the tales of a whistling ghost or demon. And, I got to looking at that, and then I got a bunch of stories that kind of jogged my memory and thinking about the whistling stories that we've received and things of ghosts that people hear in their own homes. And that led to a good friend of the show and listener, Jeff Foster. And Jeff sent us a story of what happened to him very close to where we're at right now. We both know where he's talking about. We've both been there, this whole thing. So that's the main reason we decided to pick that one. It was close to home, and it just almost like the universe telling us it ties in with what we're doing now. So without any further ado and wasting any more time, let's get into that story and see what Jeff had happen to him.
I just listened to y'all's whistling ghost story, and it immediately jogged my brain of an experience I had about 10 years ago. I worked at Best Buy at the time in a small town called Weatherford, Texas, in the Geek Squad. I still lived with my parents at the time in southern Fort Worth, which is about 25 miles away. It was the typical, peaceful, and nice drive home. Considering between Weatherford and Fort Worth, there's a lot of open spaces with not much of anything, including traffic. Just picturesque, open prairies and low, swooping hills. Anyways, to set up the story, I drove a Chevy Cobalt, and I thought I was so cool, as this was my very first car. I did some mods to it, installed a custom intake and some stickers to add 5 more horsepower, and decided, hey, I'm a street racer in this 4-cylinder piece of crap. To add to all this, and considering Best Buy's employee discount, which was totally awesome, I also bought a brand new radar detector, which was the top of the line Cobra at the time. I would rarely speed, because I'll be honest, I only liked getting fast and furious when no one was around. It all started one night, after I pulled a closing shift at work. It was around 10:30 p.m., so not super late. But considering there is no nightlife in lonely Weatherford, Texas, the streets were mostly dead, except for the International House of Pancakes parking lot. I was tired, and I just wanted to get home. So I exited onto Interstate 20, eastbound, and headed for my house. Now, I'm going to tell you about my drive. About halfway down the freeway, it splits into two separate interstates, Interstate 30 eastbound and then Interstate 20 eastbound, with literally a fork in the road. This is where I would reach my speed zone, because as soon as you come around the corner to get on Interstate 20, there is this small hill, then a huge valley that is about 1.5 miles long. If there was a cop hiding there isn't much room for them to hide, as there are no trees and there's really no blind spots. It really is just a valley between two pastures, so a great place to test the limits and have some fun. I usually have at least a couple of people around me on the freeway, but I noticed strangely that tonight there was no one. Not one car, no headlights. As soon as I peeked down the valley, I saw no cars. Nothing, so I booked it. I went as fast as my car would go, which was a mediocre 105 miles an hour, until I hit the limiter. That's when I noticed something strange. I had a freaking flat. Oh damn, I got a flat. Not some small flat, but the whole car started shaking. It was a thump, thump, every half second kind of flat. So, I immediately guided the car off the road, hitting the rumble strips and immediately slowing down. My first thought was, crap, I don't want to change this thing, especially not out here. It's pitch black. I stepped out of my car, and for some reason, I just got real spooked as I looked around to see nothing but my headlights in the darkness. Still, there was no cars, no sounds, except for the cicadas hissing in the summer night. I was immediately like, shit, I need to do this fast. I walked around to my front left tire, and it was perfectly fine. I walked to my back left tire. It too was perfectly fine. Then around to the other side. All fine. Before I can shake my head to wonder what was going on, I heard this faint whistling. This wasn't like the wind, as it was a normal Texas summer with nothing blowing in the air. Okay, I just thought my mind was playing tricks on me, so I got in the car to get my tire gauge. I checked one tire, full of air. I checked tire number 2, full of air, and then on to the other side. Then, I hear it again. This time, it was louder. I swear the whistling drowned out all the insect sounds. It was literally just at my car. And it was only me, my car, and whatever was making that noise. I skipped checking the other tires, as I was starting to get more than just a little spooked. I instead looked for maybe some debris that maybe was lodged under the car. Nothing. My car was perfectly fine, and I have no explanation as to what happened. As dumbfounded as I was, what happened next scared me even more. After finishing my inspection of the car, I chalked it up to me being crazy and said, screw it, maybe it was just a fluke. Upon walking around to my driver's side, I heard the whistling yet again. But this time, it came with a gust of wind. Like I said, there was really no wind that night, not until just now. I hopped in fast as possible and closed the door to the car. For a second, I felt safe as I was inside of my car now, but I still felt the need to check all of my gauges to make sure I didn't miss something. That's when my experience turned to the strangest for me, as my radar detector suddenly went off on all bands. Every beep that you could imagine was blaring out of this thing. I don't remember all of them, but I've never seen it do this before or since. Sometimes the K-band would go off at the stores when the automatic doors would open, but I'm near nothing right now. There was nothing electronic within miles of me. Well, I put it in drive and floored it out of there, with my radar detector still blaring for about 30 seconds, and then it instantly stopped. It stopped exactly the same time I saw headlights coming from down the hill of another car. It's literally like another person scared or stopped whatever was happening to me. As soon as I made it over the next hill, it's like everything around me was brighter. I had all sorts of traffic around me now, and everything seemed to be back to normal. I then almost forgot about the noise my car was making before. Everything was perfectly fine. For the longest time, I would tell this story to my girlfriend, and she would immediately tell me to stop because it was freaking her out. After hearing your stories about whistling ghosts or beings and some time slips, it jogged up my memory, and I thought I would share this with you. Peace, Jeff. Well, what an interesting story. I mean, you were mentioning El Sabon, this legend of this in Venezuela, where this whistling spirit or whistling ghost is heard. And there's a whole folklore and myth to that. Sounds very similar to me. You know, there are lots of stories where people talk about seeing ghosts or seeing Sasquatch or seeing these other things, but there's not a lot of spectral sightings. And you hear the whistling involved. You hear whispering sometimes or tapping.
Mm-hmm.
And not very often do you hear whistling. And I think it's really cool the way he describes it. Well, is it a spirit that was out there? Was it some sort of cryptid that might have been sneaking around in the pastures near him? Or was it almost like a time slip? Because it kind of seemed like he was in a separate realm for a few minutes, and then when another driver finally arrived, it kind of broke him out of that. You know what I'm saying? It's like time stopped for him. He was on this is a busy interstate. It's between Weatherford and Fort Worth, which is on the west side of the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. The next biggest town west would be, large town would be Abilene, Texas. Yes. So that you're talking, this is a major thoroughfare. This is not just some highway or small country road. Semis, almost nonstop, no matter what time of the day you're out there. So for him to be on a stretch of road like that, on what's normally a very busy road, to be all alone for a long amount of time and to hear, strange sounds and things. Also, he mentioned he had to pull over in the first place because he thought it was a flat tire. And then he gets out there and then he doesn't even have a flat. I mean, it's really odd. I mean, like, what was he experiencing? I don't know. Remember, he got his tire gauge out. He was checking for things and nothing. And he just kept hearing that odd whistling. I don't know, man. What do you think that is?
Well, and we've covered it on the show, and my son said he had something happen to him in New Mexico where there was whistling involved. And I've even talked about it before, is it almost seems like that's an easy way maybe for spirits to reach out, or something to reach out from the other end, or the other side, or the other plane, or whatever you want to call it. It seems like that is the easiest way for them to manifest themselves. And I believe on the show I even brought up the fact of when Patrick Swayze in Ghost is learning to do something.
That's right.
He's trying to kick a can. It almost seems like whistling is the first step. Like maybe that's the first way that they can kind of catch your attention, or that's the way that they get across to people. I don't know. It is unique in itself, though, is because there are a lot of people that have these whistling encounters that don't think anything of it. You just hear a whistle and you think it off as a bird. Now, granted, I imagine the majority of them are birds.
Or the wind.
But what the thing that catches me the most in Jeff's story is the fact that he heard a flat. He had a flat.
He not only heard it, but felt it. Everybody knows what that feels like.
Yeah. And he said maybe it was something lodged under the car. He doesn't know, And look, granted, you could have easily run over in the night
and then
what we call alligators, where the recaps on 18-wheelers, the tires blow off and they're laying on the side of the road. If there was a piece you wouldn't know what it run at, maybe that's what it was. I don't know. But it is awful strange that it happened where it happened. He stopped to check it. That's where the whistling started. I'm not saying that something's trying to get him. I'm not saying shit like that. I'm just saying it's very strange that it happened the way it happened and it happened where it happened, and it all kind of together, kind of congealed at this point to where, like you're talking about, it almost feels like a time slip, and then it sounds of this whistling. Like it's some really strange stuff that all kind of fell together at one point. And then it said he felt instantly like he needed to get out of there. So, I mean,
everybody knows
what
that feeling is like, like you get the hair on the back of your neck kind of stands up.
Yes.
I don't know what's wrong or right, but I know I need to get out of here.
Yeah,
whether you're just walking down a lonely road at night or walking down a sidewalk, and you see somebody and you're like, I don't know, that guy might be, there's nothing wrong with the guy in the hoodie over there, but I don't know, I don't get a good feeling. I think I need to get out of here. And I even do that. You know what I mean? This isn't just for young women. I don't care how tough bad guys or, big tough guys want to act. There are times where even those guys get creeped out. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I've been walking out and been like, those are like 3 12-year-olds, but I need to get out of here.
Something doesn't feel right.
And I think, everybody can relate to that. And I don't know. I really enjoy these stories, so I appreciate it, Jeff. Thank you so much for sending that. I look forward to the next show that we're going to get into. If people want to submit their stories, tell them how to do that.
Well, first of all, before we go any further, folks, please, if you're not already subscribed, subscribe. Hit the button down here. Subscribe to the page. We'll be able to update it mostly. Also, hit the like button. Help us out. Hit some thumbs up on that whole thing. If you want to send it in, please send it in. You find us at expandedperspectives@yahoo.com. If you're not already a fan of the show, you can go to the Facebook page under Expanded Perspectives. You can go to our website, Instagram, Twitter, the whole thing. You can email us, but send it to us at expandedperspectives@yahoo.com. And under the subject, put it in all caps because it'll float past us. We're old. We're idiots.
Yeah.
Unusual encounters. If you put that subject on there, we'll know exactly what you're writing it for. And that way we'll be able to grab it, move it, go through it, check it all out, the whole thing. I want to thank also, while we're sitting here, Martin House Brewing. For those of you that are any like Texas music fans, you've had to have heard of the Toadies.
Yeah, for sure.
This is a Toadies Texas Bach beer by Martin House Brewing over in Fort Worth. It's a Texas craft beer, and it's called Bach Slider. I'm a big fan of Bach. I like Shiner Bach. I just love all these Ziegenbachs.
Pretty good.
This is Bach Slider, brewed over there in Fort Worth. It's the reason we're going to have some craft beers in here with us. There's usually beers in here with us when we record, now especially. So, but yes, if you feel like you want to get involved, you want to shoot us some messages, you want to send us your story, please do not hesitate. Fire that sucker off at us. We would love to read it. Even if you don't want us to use it, you just want to turn it into us, that's fine. If you don't want your name started, that's fine. Doesn't matter. Send all that to us. Tell us what you want, what you don't want. We'll take care of it. We'll adjust it around. We're here just to have a good time.
That's right. Yeah. And please be thorough. I mean, don't write us something small. Be intricate. Lay it all out. We don't mind. Too long is not a problem. We can always trim the fat off. I appreciate putting the mood there. The whole exciting, the whole experience. I really want to be drawn in. So we look forward to that.
So I guess we're done here for the first one. We hoped you enjoyed it. Well, like I said, I'm going to try to release them. We're going to try to get them wrapped up and release them on at least bi-weekly. We've also got some other things coming up. We're probably going to be releasing shows where we do interviews with some of your favorite authors, either in studio or in their home. We're actually going to go there and do a lot of setup and filming. So we got a lot coming to this YouTube channel. This is going to be the only place you can find this content. We're not releasing it anywhere else. This will be it. So thank you so much for being fans. Thank you so much for being understanding, supporting the show for this last 3 years. We really appreciate it. It's been fun. Kyle and I are going to get back to work now while we're in studio, do a little more stuff, get set up for the next show. So thanks for staying with us. I hope you enjoyed it.